Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast. Today is July 31st, and this is going to be a more relaxed episode. We're going to talk about NPR's liberal bias and just try to make a decision ourselves. Like, are they biased? Are they not? We're going to look at a couple sources, and it's going to be a pretty fun episode. Again, it's going to be a relaxing, chilled out episode. Before going into this episode, I guess I'll just give my thoughts. NPR does have like a left-leaning bias with some of their articles, and we're just going to take a deep dive into that today because they are like losing their funding, and we'll talk about that later in the episode. But for now, let's check out the sources. And again, if you don't know what we're doing here, if you're a first-time viewer, this is the Pipeline Podcast. We talk about conspiracies and current events. I guess this kind of video just kind of goes into more like what Trump's doing as the president right now, his like agenda. That's kind of why there's this whole push right now to get rid of NPR's funding, definitely because of Trump. He's definitely leading the charge in that. So let's take a look at it. The first source we do have is Fox News. I do want to say Fox News isn't a great source, but again, if we're looking for sources on NPR being left-leaning, we're not really going to be able to go to any other left-leaning mainstream media sources to like find a story on that. One of the sources today is Fox News, and we're going to start with that. So apparently there's this video where the CEO of NPR says, "Show me a story that proves liberal bias." So we're just going to start with that. I haven't actually seen this, but it will set a nice tone for the rest of the episode because that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to show stories that proves a liberal bias at NPR. Obviously, I pulled up these sources. We found a few. We're going to go over those. So let's check out the video.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom. We believe that as a public broadcaster, we do have an obligation to serve all Americans.
So yeah, I think that's about it right there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to find some stories that concern us. And you don't have to look very hard. You just kind of type it in at Google, like NPR liberal bias. And you just find stuff. People already did the work for us here. We're just going over that. Let's spend a minute and look at this article. I think it does have some examples. Oh, so yeah, we're going to go into this. This is like some kind of response. There's just a picture of a couple articles that might have a liberal bias. And then this is another video I want to watch. So this is Senator John Kennedy, and he does a little presentation about NPR's liberal bias. I want to check this out. Let's give this a watch.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media-savvy attorney.
So I will say this means nothing to me. I don't know this Michael guy.
They love Michael Avenatti. You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR. Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music.
So yeah, that is a fun one. Let's see what the Senator John Kennedy says about it, and then we'll kind of give our response.
I kid you not. The American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist.
And I will say that is a little ridiculous to call country music racist. I guess, honestly, let's see if we can actually pull it up real quick. I got a minute. All right, so yeah, let's just check out this article. Like John Kennedy is claiming that this article, or at least by reading the title, can come off as like a left-leaning article. And what he's saying is like the NPR National Public Radio is like funded by like taxpayer money, not completely. And I think most of the funding does come privately, which we'll get back to later in the episode. But anyway, let's take a look at this article and see if we can actually see like a leaning bias. And I would say like right here, just the title saying country music is racist. Whatever they're going to say in this article is going to be a stretch. I'll start off with that. Let's check it out. Okay, so they're saying there's like 3 top country songs right now. One of them is called Try That in a Small Town. That's not racist. And in the music video apparently includes montages critical of the Black Lives Matter protests. That again does not mean that someone is racist. Maybe we'll get into the Black Lives Matter protest, but like again, there was a lot of looting and stuff going on. That's not protest. Also, the whole organization, Black Lives Matter, is just like, you see a lot of government organizations capped at like 3% administration fees. Black Lives Matter is not like that. Like the people who ran that cashed out. It doesn't seem racist to me. You just have to have a little bit of nuance and be like up to date with these things. Just because it's called Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you're racist if you're against it. MLK would not support the Black Lives Matter protests, in my opinion. Jason Aldean was singing in front of a courthouse where a black teen was lynched. That's a pretty bad image, but I'm not trying to defend Jason Aldean. I don't really know him. Who knows if he even realized he was doing that? It was just like a small town courthouse or something. I don't know. I'd have to look into that more. We're just going to go through the article. Then there was the number 2 hit by Morgan Wallen, but he got canceled for using the N-word. So let's get a little bit past that. There are a lot of people who have said the N-word who people still don't think are racist. Some people say it. And again, it's probably not a good thing to say that. Obviously, think of like PewDiePie if you're like a YouTuber. There are a lot of other examples, but people don't go around calling those people racist. But NPR goes around calling Morgan Wallen racist. Again, we'd have to like look into that, see, how it happened, what his response was afterwards, if he was like sorry or not. I don't know. And then there should be one more example in the article. Okay, well, we got 2. So yeah, I guess they're just trying to say, oh, there is a 15-minute listen. We're not going to do that. I do encourage you to listen to it, though. You can have a better, more formed opinion than I do. But this is just the first example we're looking at. So how racism became a marketing tool for country music. Yeah, I could see how people would think this article here has a liberal bias. Let's continue.
Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin.
So that is a really good one. We'll talk about that a little bit because I think it's this source here that actually goes into it more. So we're going to save it. But yeah, so it has been proven that like Donald Trump didn't collude with like Putin in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of people think that Trump is like an agent of Russia or whatever. Like this has all been proven not to be true. Yeah, for a publicly funded broadcasting company to like be creating these kind of articles and these kind of stories is definitely a conflict of interest that definitely does lean towards the left. Absolutely.
Remember the Russiagate? The Steele dossier? NPR was right in there promoting it. Couple more headlines that NPR is putting out there using your tax dollars. This headline, monuments and teams have changed names. Let me say it again. Monuments and teams, presumably sports teams, have changed names as America reckons with racism. Birds are next.
So I actually don't see a problem with that article because it is true. Think of like the Washington Redskins that rebranded. And now we have in today's world, in the present, like Trump saying you should go back to that name. Let me just fact check. I'm not the best at sports, but I think it was Washington. So yeah, they used to be the Redskins. Now they're the Commanders. So like that title to the article there is actually true. So I'm not going to dispute that one and say it's biased. I mean, just the fact that they're spewing that kind of stuff might be because of a bias, but the title is not fake news or anything. The title is legitimate. Teams do change their names because some of the names were racist.
I don't know any birds that are racist. Here's another headline. Eating less beef is a climate solution.
Yeah, so right there, that is anti-American to tell anybody to eat less beef. And to think you're funded by the government, NPR, and you're trying to tell Americans to eat less beef, get the fuck out of here. We're not doing that.
Eating less beef is a climate solution. I don't have anything against vegetarians. I'm a semi-vegetarian myself. I eat beef and cows eat grass. So that makes me a semi-vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
But that's my choice.
That wasn't funny. He's a politician, not a comedian. Let it slide. He's old.
Not on NPR. Eating less beef is a climate solution. Here's why that's hard for some American men. Here's a final headline.
That is interesting. Yeah, here's why that's hard for some American men. They're like saying it's like a man issue. Like that is actually weird right there. I didn't even see that part until you read it. It's hard to read. But yeah, so it's trying to say we need to eat less beef because it will help the climate, and that's hard for men. So that's interesting. I don't care enough to read that, especially because I think we'll probably have to listen to it, and we're not really going to do that on the episode. But yeah, just that title there screams red flags. It does. I read that and it does concern me that maybe it's biased. So
I could go on the rest of the evening. How the Taliban adds to Afghanistan's woes when it comes to climate-fueled disasters. Boy, I can
that one, that reminds me of like just like a leftist conspiracy. I don't know anything. I don't know even what to think about that. It's a crazy title.
tell you, that's on the mind of every person in Afghanistan today, is climate change.
Not at all.
And the Taliban, I can guarantee you. I don't have a problem with these headlines. This is America. If you want to publish articles like this, which no person with a brain above a single-cell organism would call fair and balanced, if you're a news outlet and you want to publish this kind of stuff, that is your right as an American. We have freedom of the press. We have the First Amendment. You're not free in our country if you can't say what you think. You're not free in our country if you can't express yourself. I'm all for this, if that's what these outlets want to do. But I'm not for taking $500 million every single year and giving it to these stations to the exclusion of everybody else so they can do it.
Yeah. So that last statement there, I agree with. Absolutely. You can say whatever you want, but if you are publicly funded, you have to be non-biased. And some of these articles here or stories here do scream a little bias, and they are a little concerning. So I think this Fox News source did a great job just kind of explaining what's going on. And we have more examples here. So we're going to go through some of these. And then we have one more source, and that'll be the end of the episode. Again, chill episode. We're just going over, like, I think it's important for people to understand that NPR does lean to the left. Just because, like, let's be honest, NPR has some banger stories every once in a while, but people don't wake up and listen to NPR like on the daily, in my opinion. I'm sure like some people do. But either way, what I'm trying to say is you might not be aware of the kind of stuff NPR is up to. They kind of fly under the radar. They're not as big as like Fox News or like CNN. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. So just in case you like see all the news about how Trump is defunding NPR and like it's an attack on like freedom of speech, like don't get it twisted. Like there's actually a good reason for it. These are even more reasons, and the best reason is in this third source, where it really goes into how NPR has tried to hinder Trump at every opportunity they possibly could. So let's just check out these other sources here. I read through these. Some of them I do want to talk about. So let's start at the top. Some white people may choose the like golden skinned emoji because it feels neutral. Basically here, like for people that don't know, if you do like a thumbs up emoji in a text, you can pick the skin color of it. So there's white, black, all the other skin colors, but there's also gold because it's like neutral. So here, some white people may choose the gold because it feels neutral, but some academics argue opting out of the white signals The white thumbs up signals a lack of awareness about white privilege, akin to society associating whiteness with being raceless. So they're trying to say that if you're a white person and you use the gold thumbs up emoji, that you might be racist. And that you should use the white thumbs up emoji if you're white to let everyone know that you are aware of your white privilege. I swear to God, that's what this title is trying to say. I swear to God. First, you want to talk about crazy headlines, like that's one. But also you want to talk about a left-leaning bias, and like that is like a great example of it. So yeah, you read this headline and you think NPR is not biased, so you believe it, and now you're a white person and you feel like you have to use the white-skinned emojis so that you don't lack awareness of your white privilege. It is kind of crazy. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Next up, fat phobia and its racist past and present. Don't know, just by the headline, if this is left-leaning, but it is trying to say that if you don't like fat people, you're also racist, and that's not true. Next up, how racism became a marketing tool for country music. Oh, we went over this one already. And it gave like one good example. One popular country musician filmed part of his music video in front of a courthouse, and it just so happened that at that courthouse, a black person got lynched there in the past. Other than that, I couldn't find any other connections. And it didn't even show that like the country singer did that on purpose, like intentionally. It didn't even claim that. Next up, this right-wing conspiracy theory about eating bugs is about as racist as you think. What I'm getting from this title is, if you don't like eating bugs, you're racist. If you're like anti-bug eating, if you think bugs are gross, you're racist. And then we saw the other example where we should eat less meat because it's better for the environment. So they are pushing an agenda. I'm not trying to deny climate change, but this is something that you see more on the left. Like trying to convince people that if they think bugs are gross, they might be racist is just, it is ridiculous. It's concerning from a publicly funded news outlet. Next up, why haven't you seen any stories from NPR about New York Post Hunter Biden story? NPR says we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste the listener and reader's time on stories that are just pure distractions. So that is a thing, because Hunter Biden's laptop was actually real. They were kind of part of the cover-up to get the public to not believe it and look into it, which isn't like voter fraud, but it is election manipulation in a way, election interference. Again, just like John Kennedy said, him and I were all for putting out your opinions, but if you're publicly funded, you cannot say this kind of shit. And then it turns out that Hunter Biden's laptop was actually real, and so they didn't cover it. So what's up with that? If they have real unbiased writers, they should have verified the story and realized, oh shit, this is actually a real thing. We should cover it. But they didn't do that. So it's not just this one is actually a big deal, because it's not just the fact that NPR is left leaning. It's that their editors, their writers actually do have a bias. And if they see a real story, even if it's real, if it doesn't fit their narrative, they're not going to tell the public about it. That is like a very big issue, because people, like American citizens, do listen to NPR to try to get like real news and not like a spin on things, but they can't even avoid it at NPR. It's a huge issue. And you want to talk about like propaganda, like sure, Fox News might have articles that you could call propaganda, but they're not funded by the government. It's a huge difference. Like this right here is like actual super MAGA people actually see this as literal like government propaganda, because Hunter Biden's laptop was real. NPR didn't cover it, and they definitely should have. Next up, Kamala Harris already faces racism and sexism from Trump and Republicans. So, I mean, this one sucks because like I don't think Trump and most Republicans hate on Kamala because she's like not white. I don't think they care about that. But I guarantee there were some Republicans that were racist towards Kamala. I also guarantee there are liberals that have been racist towards Trump in some kind of way. So whatever about that. But yeah, I mean, that is a left-leaning title right there, absolutely. And then the last one is, there is no neutral. Nice white people can still be complicit in a racist society. So yeah, they're trying to, it brings it back to the first one. They're trying to say, if you're white, don't forget about your white privilege. Help a brother out. I guess. And that is a narrative that they're pushing that like, well, where's that coming from? And it's obviously coming from like a super liberal writer. So let's check out our last source here. It's CNN Business. And the title, NPR suspends editor who claimed left-wing bias at outlet had lost America's trust. So yeah, I was looking into this. It was this dude called David Falcon Flitt. He made like an op-ed saying like, and he's an editor at NPR, or at least was, I don't know if he still is. Anyway, he made an op-ed about how NPR is biased, and he knows this because he works there. And because of the bias, it had lost a lot of America's trust, and it wasn't seen as like an unbiased news network anymore because of the bias. And so what happened is he got suspended for 5 days, and he was put on a final warning. Again, here is the problem. He's right. So it's like, this is a publicly funded like broadcasting company, publicly funded radio, and they're punishing the employees that work there for speaking the truth. And like, if you've ever, that is a big deal. You do have to like follow like the laws in America as like NPR. Like when you're government funded, it's a lot different things that you have to do. So you can't like suppress free speech. You can't suppress speech like that. This guy works for NPR. NPR is getting funded by taxpayers, but NPR decides that when someone makes an opinion article that works for NPR, they can give them disciplinary actions if they don't like what they say, even if what they say is true. That's a big fucking deal, guys. And then there was one paragraph here where it really sums everything up, and I kind of want to end with this. So it said, the disciplinary action came after Berliner openly ridiculed NPR's news coverage in a 3,500 word piece for the anti-establishment publication The Free Press, claiming the broadcaster had failed to properly cover allegations Donald Trump colluded with Russia. We went over this. They did fail to do that. The controversial COVID-19 lab leak theory. And like, if you go on like the whitehouse.gov, like they talk about how COVID is a lab leak from Wuhan. And so here's another thing. Like, if you are publicly funded, you kind of do have to agree with what the government agrees with. Whether you think it's real or not, I do kind of fall into the Wuhan gain of function research more than it was a bunch of animals in some kind of animal marketplace in Wuhan that started COVID. I feel like, you know, there's literally like a biohazard research lab in Wuhan right down the road from where they say COVID started. It just does make more sense that it started out at that lab. But anyway, it's agreed upon by the White House that this lab leak theory is like the best theory, and they go with it. But again, NPR didn't cover that when that was all happening. And then they also didn't cover Hunter Biden's laptop story, which again, we know now was a true story. So it's like, you look at Hunter Biden's laptop and you look at the COVID lab leak theory, you think the editors and the reporters that work for NPR would really look into these stories. And they should have realized like these sources are credible. We have to publish this because it's true information. That's kind of what we went over in the video. Like NPR does have a bias. There's a lot of articles that have like left-leaning biases. Also, their editors and reporters don't publish information that doesn't fit their narrative. And again, when they're publicly funded, they kind of have a responsibility to do that. And then there's one more thing I wanted to go over. NPR directly receives approximately 1 to 2% of its funding from the federal government. People are freaking out that NPR is getting defunded, but like this is the whole kind of thing. Like, who gives a fuck if they lose 1 to 2% of government funding? All this press that they're getting in the media, I guarantee they're gonna gain just in donations more than what they lost in federal funding. So now it's kind of like they can keep doing what they want to do, which is like be a left-leaning media source. So everything's fine now. And people are kind of freaking out that it's like the end of the world. It's like an assault on democracy and freedom of speech. But in reality, when NPR did receive the funding, that was like the real assault on free speech. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was pretty fun. If there's any other like important facts about like NPR and its funding that I really should have hit on that I didn't go over, leave a comment. I don't know everything about this, but I wanted to make an episode on it because it is important. Because NPR, you think like National Public Radio, you think like BBC. I do think BBC probably does a better job at being unbiased. But NPR, yeah, I agree with that editor that made the op-ed. NPR's lost America's trust. So if you like this video, check out more on the channel. We do current events as they're happening within the week. We'll like make an episode covering stuff like that. And then once a week, we'll do like a long form podcast on Wednesdays, usually on Wednesdays. And we'll go over conspiracy theories or any other like anything that we find interesting on the channel that we want to talk about. And definitely subscribe so you can see our new episodes when we put them on the channel. Have a good night.